Beer. Sparkling, golden, pure, refreshing.
Beer is America's beverage. Pretty much everything in America that's important is around beer.
Vietnam?
That's that sudsy amber stuff, right?
Yeah.
I've been hearing good things about it.
You know, Americans love beer. It's like, you know, Mother God and apple pie.
The beer is chilled now, and Ingrid serves it in the traditional manner, from a pitcher with a garland of greenery. Mmm.
I think in the United States, beer is the equivalent of the adult teddy bear.
These guys find the kind of relaxation and release they need in a cold glass of beer. For them, only beer does it.
You know, for the longest time, we didn't have choices. There was nothing but that fizzy, yellow, kind of bland, easy drinking beer. You don't really need to think about it, because there's really nothing to think about.
We find your American beer is a little like making love in a canoe. Making love in a canoe? It's fucking close to water.
But now we're seeing more consumers are switching from mass-produced beers into these more artisanal beers that are being produced in the U.S.
What are you guys drinking?
I'm drinking a Blue Moon, Fat Tire, Sierra Nevada, Rolling Rock,
Sam Adams Summer Ale.
Pabst Blue Ribbon, Anchor Steam.
I'm drinking Arrogant Bastard.
The renaissance in beer in this country has been far beyond my own wildest dreams. Today, the United States has a bigger selection of beer than any other country in the world.
Americans drink a lot of beer. $97 billion worth last year. That's 6,550,000,000 gallons of beer. And most of this beer came from just a handful of multinational corporations. My name is Annette Barron, and I used to be in the beer business. Growing up, I wanted to be president.
Well, I'm not a crook.
Not that kind, but this kind. When I graduated, I got a corporate job. I got the office, the assistant, and the company car. But corporate life wasn't for me. Too much politics and bullshit. So I escaped the corporate jungle. I had a consulting business, produced films. I even got in on the internet boom. Fast forward to 2001. An old friend needed help with his small independent company, Mike's Hard Lemonade.
Please welcome Annette Barron, our acting general manager.
Boom, I was in the beer industry. I came on board and ended up running the company. Mike's isn't owned by a big company and is therefore free to be creative and a little like me, a little out there. And Mike's is fun. I know what you're thinking. Working in the beer industry? Now that's fun. Think about the perks. All that free beer and the parties. Not for me. I'm allergic to alcohol. So it wasn't about the free beer. What I loved was taking on the corporate behemoths who wanted to see us gone. 3 years later, I hung up my helmet to pursue new adventures. But I couldn't forget the beer wars.
Well, the big brewers might not be crying in their beer, but things aren't what they used to be. Part of that could be because of the extra competition from the smaller guys.
The craft beers, they've really been on the rise. They're taking more and more market share from the big guys.
Sales for the king of beers and other major brewers are soft, 2% growth or flat, losing ground to the white and brown spirit makers. The real profit centers for the hop crowd are in the micro and regional brewery.
This is the battleground, and the holy grail is your wallet. On one side is corporate America, doing everything it can to win at all cost. On the other side are small brewers, who are challenging the status quo. But it's about much more than beer. At stake is the American dream. Like at least a year since I've seen a lot of these people, and just not quite sure what kind of reaction I'm gonna get. If you want to find the big hitters of the beer industry, this is it. The annual Beer Industry Convention is the powwow for the major players in the beer business, and my past connections got me an invite. But when I arrived, they didn't seem to be crying in their beers.
Hi! Donnelly, not Barron, right?
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Wonderful.
How are you? Good to see you. How are you? Good to see you. Wow, the gang's all here. So what's new in the beer business? Is there anything exciting?
Beer was down second year in a row. They're literally trying to stay alive right now. Beer has become a commodity.
It's just not the same old basic domestic brands anymore. You got to be innovative.
Welcome to the game.
Thank you very much.
The next morning, it was all business as the beer industry was showing off its latest and greatest.
Get off your butt and grab a monkey.
What is hot and hard lemonade? It is a malt beverage with a serrano pepper in it. If you drink this, do you get thighs like that?
You drink a lot.
Okay, great. What's his favorite beer?
No, he just likes to quack one open once in a while.
Okay. Meanwhile, it was all quiet at the Anheuser-Busch booth. Is there like a hot product that people are talking about? No? What was the last hot thing that you remember that was launched?
Mike's Lemonade.
Really? I have to admit that I did miss these guys. But what I didn't miss was being in the trenches of the beer business, 24/7, in a war that never let up.
Tough, challenging environment for domestic beer right now. They're all fighting to get a bigger piece of a pie that's not growing.
Do you think beer is in decline overall?
All the big brewers are down. The domestic beers are declining a little bit more than that. Imports are growing solidly. Craft beers are growing solidly. Beer is also fighting against wine and spirits. There's just something very uncertain.
How did we get here? How did 3 companies come to dominate the American beer industry? The founders of Anheuser-Busch, Miller and Coors came to America in the mid-1800s with a dream and a beard. By 1900, there were over 1,800 breweries. These dreams were crushed by Prohibition, but then built up again in the 1950s.
Beer and ale hold their place on the shopping list today, along with the bread and milk and vegetables.
With their huge marketing budgets, the big brewers killed off many local and regional breweries.
The brewers are spending more and more on marketing and advertising, doing what tobacco companies have done for generations. We see horses, big ones, for beer, bars, nice ones, beer basketball, beer softball, beer volleyball, even beer soccer.
The result was devastating to the small brewers.
The Great American Beer War, a battleground of corporations, careers, and cash. Since 1970, 35 local beers have been killed off, driven out of business, or bought out by the giants. Gone forever.
By 1978, there were only 45 breweries left in America. And the giants were fighting each other for supremacy.
Miller is the country's second largest brewer and wants to be number 1. Anheuser-Busch is number 1 and wants to stay there.
Never will they knock us over. We feel they feel our hot breath right on their back.
But our major problem is Miller. We must attack them where they are strong, and we must do so now.
Making friends is our business. As the quarterback of this team, I can assure you of aggressiveness, determination, and humility. It has been correctly said that wars produce advancement. We need to be lean and hungry to take on all comers.
Who will own the future? Who will own tomorrow? That depends on what we do today. For us, the Anheuser-Busch family, the future can be ours.
By becoming more nimble, innovative, flexible, efficient, and ultimately more relevant to today's consumers.
Today, Anheuser-Busch sells 1 out of every 2 beers sold in America. Anheuser-Busch is a classic American story of dedication, efficiency, aggressive marketing, and unbridled ambition.
Well, you know, if one goes back in time, AB was powering ahead virtually at will, and the smaller brewers, including Miller, were increasingly more and more vulnerable.
I like competition. So and I think military analogy and competition works. We talk a lot in our own business about not attacking a walled fortress.
They've got the firepower of a Walmart, of a Microsoft.
While Miller makes up 18% market share and Coors 11%, together the big three brewers make up 78% of the U.S. beer market. Making beer that seems to look a lot alike. Can beer drinkers tell them apart?
Beer. I need beer.
In front of you right here, in this very non-scientific study, we have A, B, and C. If you could take a sip of A, B, and C, and then tell me which one is the Coors Light.
I think it's A.
You think it's A?
I picked A.
And A is?
A is Bud Light.
Bud Light. Are you surprised?
Yes.
What is it that makes you a Coors Light guy?
Habit.
My beer is Miller Lite. I am a Bud Light guy.
Coors Light is my beer.
I'm going with B. C. C is the Bud Light.
B is definitely the Coors Light.
Should we check it out?
Yes. Son of a...
And C is?
Oh, no!
And B is?
Not Coors Light. It's not A. I think C is the Miller Lite.
And you picked the Coors Light. What would be your second choice in between A and B? B.
You're gonna tell me it's
B is a Bud Light. So now what happens?
I guess I failed.
Oh no, it's okay. These guys didn't fail. The big three beer companies, they've been selling sameness for years.
85% of all the beer in this country is really in the form of light lager, and of which Budweiser and Bud Light are the best examples. Those brands constantly have to be re-expressed to a consumer.
The other beers did look alike and talk alike,
with intangible things like refreshment and flavor to sell.
So the whole business at Miller is really focused on becoming a great marketer.
Last bang! Great
What we are going to be pursuing is a strategy that's differentiated.
Bad dog. And not only do most beer advertisements look alike, but they've all been saying the same things for years, too.
So we've got to continue to make ourselves new and interesting on the one hand, and on the other hand, we need to keep coming back to what it is our brands are about.
The big three beer companies spent $1.5 billion last year trying to convince Americans how different their beers really are. Today, there are over 1,400 breweries making 60 types of beer. Together, these independent breweries make up less than 5% of all the beer sold. And who are these brewers who are challenging the big three?
Keep left.
One of the few small breweries to survive for over 175 years is Yuengling. In today's world of daily takeovers and corporate conglomerates, Yuengling remains family-owned with 5th and 6th generation family members. Yuengling is the oldest brewery in America, and unless you live on the East Coast, the oldest brewery you never heard of. Are you going to tell us what you really think about the American beer industry? Yes, I will.
Hi!
Dick meet Dick.
Back in the 50s, every little brewery, they all had beers with particular taste and character to them. And the people in those cities and towns in that brewery's area liked that beer, so that's what they supported. As television brought in the national brands, the beer just got more bland and more bland and more bland. to the point that now they're in trouble because the people are saying, I don't like this anymore. People are fed up with corporate America jamming down the consumer's throat what they want to. These are the old wooden tanks that they used in the 1800s. So when this was built, those were the tanks they used. There's so much potential with our company. I mean, I really think this company can keep growing and become a little factor in the beer business. We're only in 10 states. And, you know, we could keep growing, but it's got to be done very, very slowly and methodically.
In the history of American beer, Yuengling is an exception. Most small breweries weren't as lucky.
In 1978, the beer landscape in America was pretty bleak. If you wanted flavor and diversity, you had to make it yourself. I have a batch of beer that's fermenting right here. It's called Oba. I'm president of the Brewers Association, which is an association not only for craft brewers, but for home brewers. It tortures the grain. It's a maltster. Other beers. I have some Horny Donkey Pale Ale. All those home brewers that began making beer at home because they had no choice on the shelves started drinking their home brew, and maybe they drank enough to have dreams. Yeah, well, if I can make this beer that's this good at home, I could probably start a business. Why not?
In the early 80s, I realized there was no great beer available to American beer drinkers. So my objective was to make the best beer in America.
We started in the basement of our house. I once gave a talk called Visa Has Been Very Good to Me because we took all of those pre-approved credit lines that came in the mail.
You know what? I'm going to grab a beer.
We make angry beer, and angry beer is a great thing. Angry beer makes for happy people. You know, I'm actually angry about beer a lot because I see a beer or I taste a beer, they expect me to accept this. I just saw this commercial where they said that.
Unfortunately, almost all our beer knowledge comes from Budweiser, Miller, and Coors. It's as if all we knew about food we learned from McDonald's.
For the big three, beer has come very close to being just a commodity for them. They've done approximately the same thing for a very long time.
A company like Anheuser-Busch is 100 times our size. They literally spill more beer off their packaging lines than I make all year. You know, my passion at life's work is their industrial waste.
I do not care how much beer we make. I only care how we make it. If we end up leveling off, I don't mind, as long as we never compromise our standards.
This is a very traditional cherry lambic. Oh, you can see the cherries.
Creativity shouldn't stop just because these industries have become these mass, industrialized, consolidated, intergalactic companies. There needs to be lunatics like me that still have that same passion. Don't worry, I can make more. That's where the truly wonderful parts of human civilization come from, is these lunatics at the fringe.
You mean awesome? Ah, it smells good, doesn't it? This is kind of a moment that we cherish, which is the beginning phases of another new beer. So this is chocolate beer.
Good angle, good angle.
Check the angle of my dangle. Nice. This process is really the equivalent of a chef's kitchen. So this is where you're going to add your spices to the boil. Some call it cocoa. I don't really look at the beer industry to try and get direction for what we'll do next. If it's already being done, it's not really something we're interested in doing.
Are you ready to dump this shit in?
Is chocolate an aphrodisiac?
Oh, you know it.
Philosophically, I think there's a gigantic gap between what it means to be a big brewery and a small brewery. Big breweries are usually public companies. So whether they're making beer or soda or whatever, their real goal at the end of the day is maximizing shareholder value. Whereas our goal is maximizing the flavor of what we're making for our own enjoyment as the people making it.
Man, those ancient Hondurans knew what to drink, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. I started homebrewing in '93, but right after I brewed my first batch, I started telling people, this is what I want to do with my life.
Ready, it's nice.
To start the brew pub was a real challenge. I was naive enough to think I could just go to a bank and get money from a bank to open a brand new venture. I was 25 when I moved down here to start the brewery, and I just started, working on the building, signed a lease, and then somebody came up to me and they're like, you do know it's illegal to open a brewery in Delaware? I'm like, really? Within a week or two, I was arguing on the floor of the Senate and writing my own legislation, and caused a lot of anxiety at the 11th hour, but we got it legalized 3 days before we opened. This is where Dogfish Head started, so it'll always have a special place in my heart, We were literally the smallest brewery in the country when we opened in 1995. Our motto's been off-centered ales for off-centered people. And when you're trying to sell $13 six-packs of oak-aged maple syrup beer in 1996, we got our butts kicked for a while because there wasn't that great level of knowledge or excitement in our industry. This is our de facto R&D lab, and we have a built-in tasting panel at our bar who tells us what they're excited about. Anheuser-Busch, Coors, Miller, their weapon has always been advertising, and our weapon has always been what's inside the bottle. This is fermented honey. Concept of honeymoon came from these kinds of drinks in Africa, where on the wedding night they would give these drinks to the people getting married, and it was a really good catalyst for getting pregnant on your wedding night.
Stop drinking!
When I wrote my business plan, my goal was to make special, unique beers and sell them all over the country. I didn't understand what that meant in terms of distribution and how difficult that would be, especially because we're in coastal, rural Delaware. I never dreamed that we'd get that big. It's an obscene amount of debt that I've gotten my family into. So personally, we better get our stuff right. Our brewery's growing at a ridiculous rate. There's never been a brewery of this scale in this state. Growth is a good problem to have. Extreme growth can be painful. It's kind of a nightmare, really. We're on pace to do about 40,000 this year, but our orders are such that if we could fill them from our distributors, we'd probably be doing 50 or 60,000 barrels. So we're working the bejesus out of our 50-barrel brew house. We're running that day and night, 24 hours a day, 6 or 7 days a week. So that thing's maxed out, which is kind of surreal for me, because when we moved in here in 2001, all I had was 6 of those 100-barrel tanks. I'm like, we can grow forever. We got all this room, and it's gone.
It's rock and roll. Or this one I like.
Making damn good beer. Caffeine is just a silent partner. That's cool. When the beer, I can read.
Walking and talking. I launched the company to find basically the cracks that the big guys leave behind and offer innovative American beer styles.
Bottle rocket, I like that.
Moonshot is real beer with caffeine. It's an amazing effect that it has on you, and I'm glad I thought of it first. I put a lot of my own money and credit on the line.
We picked Moonshot to sell because it's a new entry into the beer marketplace that it has caffeine in it, and that's got a pretty good story behind it. Well, I don't know if you need any more.
Well, that's all there is in sitting over there in
If
the
it
box.
sells like we think it's going to sell, then it'll keep a full face for the term. Okay. That's all.
I would
I'd love to put up a sign somewhere, but...
We can hang a sign for that. That's not a problem. If,
Let me ask you, what location is going to be the most visible and have the longest life? You go put up a sign one day and you go back to that store or bar the next day and it's down and there's another banner in place. That's what Beer.Wars are all about. I'll see you Thursday. I love the beer industry and somehow it's been in my blood. You know, I'm co-founder of Sam Adams and I was working with Jim Cook, the founder of the Boston Beer Company.
When I thought about starting the beer company, I thought, well, I know brewing, but I don't know bars. I need somebody who knows bars. And a bar was Rhonda's natural habitat. You know, she was totally comfortable, could light up a bar. Bartenders loved her because she'd been a bartender herself.
My Colombian friend. Smooth, easy to drink.
It's nice.
It's really the ultimate party beer. If you don't like it, I'll buy you what you drink, but I think you're going to like it. Literally, I spend 4 or 5 nights a week inside bars.
Hey, what's going on?
Taking a little moonshot. Here, you can put one around each, whatever.
Each nostril?
Thank you. Or anywhere you want to put it. It's a tedious, difficult way to do it, but when you're undercapitalized and you're building a segment from scratch, you need to be there to really understand the reactions from people.
So it's a cure for whiskey dick? Is that what it is? It's a cure for what? Whiskey dick.
It's just really hand-to-hand combat.
You married?
Oh, yeah.
What does your husband think? Like, is he cool, like, with you going to the bars and everything?
Well, when he met me, I was in the beer business, so this is all
okay. Cheers.
I'm learning every day about how to seed a brand in this new century. What I did 23 years ago with Sam Adams, it's very different now, given 35 breweries then versus the 1,400 in this country now.
We started it together, so we went through all of the trench warfare, the ups and the downs. We shared all that year after year. At the end, she came to me and said, well, you've taught me everything you know, and that's great, but now I'm not learning anything new, and I can't get promoted because there's only one other job for me to move into, and that's yours, and you're not going anywhere. When she left, I felt like she was ready.
Do you miss her?
Oh, sure.
I firmly believe that the next evolution of the industry is independent. The beer business does need innovation, and if a consumer is drinking something other than the big three, then there's a reason for that. They're trying to make a statement. My plan for the launch of Moonshot is Boston and New York. So I'm picking my spots and I'm germinating it. Just a handful of accounts. For now, with this store, I don't know what's going on with Tiger Beer, but maybe we could squeeze right in there.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable to ask him for one tasting.
Yeah, this is really going to be the area. Oh, import again. I'd say in this area. Though it's not the fastest moving section of the store. With shelf space and laws, and we have so many barriers to entry, the big guys have the muscle to muscle us out if they want.
This is the real battleground in beer. 80% of all beer in America is sold in stores like this. Liquor stores, supermarkets, and convenience stores.
It's an amazing cat and mouse game. You see more fighting for space. And look at the packages that they have. The more packages they have, the more room you need for them. This is a 20-pack. Here's a 12-pack. Here's a 6-pack. Here's 6-pack cans versus bottles. Little cans, bigger cans.
Is there really a need for a Bud Ice 12-pack next to a Bud Ice 6-pack next to a Bud Ice 6-pack? Probably not, but it means that they've got this billboard effect and they have a much better brand recognition.
It's similar to what I call the cereal wars. You know, General Mills may come out with 50 different cereals. Part of the reason why they have 50 different cereals is not just because they think they're all selling well, but because those 50 cereals will take up more space on the shelves and at the expense of one of their rivals.
It is a jungle in the supermarket. If you think about the environment of a supermarket where there's finite shelf space That is the battle for a beer company like ourselves to bring in new products. Where do you get the space? Well, generally, you try to get it from a competitor.
No deal, Al. I can't move anybody out to move you in.
If I work it out, is that okay?
Well, I don't know.
Attaboy.
Real beer taste. Say hello, Mellow Jack.
Hey, BB, bring that Bush Bavarian into this big empty space. Sometimes you have to use a different approach.
In 2005, Anheuser-Busch introduced Budweiser Select.
So what's different about Budweiser Select? Good question.
And here we have Duff, Duff Light, and our newest flavor, Duff Dry. What does the future hold for Duff? Let's just say we've got a few ideas up our sleeve.
Even though it's hard to know what's different about Budweiser Select, Anheuser-Busch was able to place it in every store in America almost overnight by finding ways to replace their competitors' beers. Budweiser Select was only the latest entry into Anheuser-Busch's stable of brands. Some familiar, some not so much.
Bottom line is, if a big player wants to get some shelf space, they're going to get it. Retailers use all sorts of fancy software and figure out how to fit everything into the fixed space. A planogram is simply a two-dimensional image of what a set of grocery shelves look like.
You know, it's one thing to have a store order your beer, and it's another thing to have it displayed in a manner where it's actually going to be seen.
We did a huge study. The fact is, guess what's most important? Eye level.
Well, everyone will tell you, first position, eye level. Okay, I walk into the bodega, I'm looking at my selections of beer. Eye level, at the handle, first choice.
Shelf space is real estate, and retailers have to decide how to allocate that real estate. A category captain is chosen in a category. It's usually the leading brand. By virtue of being a better friend to the retailer, they get the breaks. Who do you think knows more about beer? The big grocery chain, like, let's say, Kroger's or Anheuser-Busch. Frankly, it's obvious, right? Anheuser-Busch spends all their time on beer. Kroger doesn't spend very much time at all. They got 350 other categories.
Of course, each set captain is going to, in large measure, look out for their brands and perhaps even not look out specifically for other people's brands. I've never heard of a set captain who doesn't work for one of the big three. Typically, the set captain works for Anheuser-Busch.
And of course, the bigger you are, the more power you have, and they tend to listen to these people and let them decide where to place the beer, even though it's not their store.
The Justice Department has looked into this. To my knowledge, there's been no antitrust type of action currently taken. I mean, it's on the margin.
You know, the big guys control the shelf space. We don't. The big brewers sit there around the table with their representatives doing the schematic. We're not at the table.
Sam was a long way from hometown Delaware, debuting his latest beers to a big city crowd.
Hey, welcome to my room. How you been? Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Come on in.
Thank you.
Party in room 937. This is one of the beers that'll be featured in the dinner tonight. This is like the third dinner that we've done with the Waldorf, and they're not like hypocrites. Some places where you do a beer dinner kind of play lip service to their beer menu, and then after the event walk away. But these guys are really cool. They keep good beers on tap and in bottles year round. Excuse me, I'm sorry. How do I get to Oscar's?
Oscar's, sir. Straight through the center, down
Okay.
the escalator, left-hand side.
All right, thank you very much. When you get your next course, you'll see that this beer does great with meat. A great test to try at home, let a can of Coors or Bud or motor oil warm up to room temperature, put it next to a bottle of Dogfish Head's Indian Brown Ale or Sierra Nevada's Pale Ale, and you'll notice that when a beer is drunk at room temperature, i.e. a temperature that you can taste everything in that beer, there's no comparison between a beer brewed with cheap adjuncts and one that's brewed with all barley.
The beer has a certain chocolate quality to it.
See, I feel like I'm drinking iced coffee.
The difference is the ingredients used. The small breweries, they're adding special ingredients to enhance the flavor, whereas the big breweries are adding corn and rice to neuter the flavor, to make it lighter.
If somebody asks me, do I want a Budweiser?
Yeah, you punch him. You punch him right in the
I
head.
tell him to put it back in the horse.
Hey. Front side, back side. So cool to see you guys making decisions at your table. Don't listen to your television. Your television and the stupid ads on your television don't know what you like. You know what you like, and decide what to drink for yourself. So cheers, and thank you guys for coming out tonight.
"2,500 miles away, it was Super Bowl Sunday in Santa Monica, California. And what's more American than beer and football?
Well, it's Super Bowl Sunday. You gotta have a beer on Super Bowl Sunday.
I'm looking forward to the beer ads more than anything else.
I think that's my favorite part of the Super Bowl is the commercials, especially the beer commercials, because they're always really, really good.
Drinking some beers and watching some commercials.
They're more fun and more interesting than the game is.
Why do you think beer and sports go together so well?
Advertising. It's a big campaign by the man. They're trying to sell us beer.
Do you know who the sponsor of the Super Bowl is today, the beer sponsor?
I'm going to say Budweiser.
Budweiser.
It's got to be Budweiser, because I'm thinking of the Bud Bowl.
He's looking for Taylor.
Well, they got the frogs.
Budweiser? I think Budweiser was usually the main sponsor.
I'm sure that would come as a total surprise to the folks at Coors, who shell out $500 million to sponsor the NFL. So what did you guys think of that Bud Light ad?
I like the Bud Light commercials.
I like it. It's funny. I like the Bud Light ads. They're pretty good.
Do you know how many ads Anheuser-Busch has in the game today? Would it surprise you if I told you they had 10 ads, the biggest advertiser, $26 million?
It would not surprise me at all.
Because?
Because they must have to advertise a lot to sell a beer that tastes that badly.
What beer did you pour the most of today?
Probably Bud Light most.
Did you notice after there was a clever Bud commercial if anyone bought more Bud?
We did sell a lot of Bud.
A lot of Bud.
But it's not just about advertising. From movies to TV.
I like being the spokesman for Budweiser because they're the #1 company in sports marketing.
To every sport known to man. Even rock, paper, scissors. Anheuser-Busch spends $300 million a year on sponsorships, more than any other Fortune 500 company. They even sponsor the presidential debates.
Well, certainly we like being part of America's pastimes, and when it comes to the political season, the debates are right at the forefront, right there with baseball and every other sport that people are avidly watching right now.
You know, Americans are a fun-loving nation, and you can rest assured that one of the feature attractions wherever large crowds gather are the world-famous Clydesdales, who have contributed much to making the name of Anheuser-Busch a byword among the people of America.
Those Clydesdales, they sure get around.
The 2,000-pound world-famous Clydesdales represent the state of Missouri and a piece of uniquely American history.
Far from the clomping of the Clydesdales' hooves, America's small brewers gather each year in Denver, Colorado, for the Great American Beer Festival. Thousands of beer lovers taste new beers and meet the brewers who make them.
What better place to be than the Great American Beer Festival?
1,700 beers.
There are a lot of beers here you can only get in the cities where they're made. Yet they come to the festival like Pizza Port, or Russian River, or Dogfish Head.
I think at the end of the day, people want to be recognized as individuals. They don't want to be told what they should drink. They want to discover for themselves what they want to drink. And that's what we're all celebrating in that room, you know?
What do you think's going on? I mean, is beer in decline in the United States right now?
No, beer is not in decline. I think maybe light beer, meaning beer with no flavor, mass-marketed beer is on decline.
You know, people want more flavor. And this part of the beer culture is the only part that's growing.
You're getting 30,000 people to come out to try beer. This isn't the speedboat races. This isn't a football event.
This renaissance of good beer hasn't been driven by a bunch of suits in Madison Ave or Wall Street. It's truly consumer-based.
And the thing is that most Americans have never actually had real beer. They've had the mass market version, which is like the mass market version of bread. You know, stays fresh in a bag for 2 weeks, not really bread.
They want to know the people that are making the beer. They want to know what's in the beer. They want passion in the beer. They want flavor.
What in the world is that?
It's an organoleptic hop transducer. It's called Randall the Enamel Animal. It's named because when you drink a really hoppy beer, it kind of feels like it's ripping the enamel off your teeth. Basically, the beer runs through the fresh hops. The alcohol in the beer acts as a solvent and strips the oils out of the hops and puts the hop oils in your glass. So it makes for a really intense hoppy beer. Most of the guys in this room are a bunch of freaky, radical folk artists, you know, and they're trying to do something that's outside of the status quo.
Hop back, we actually take the wort and dump it right over the top of the hops.
We kind of formed our own little alternative producers, alternative distributors, and alternative consumers, and we hoisted each other up into the big old Trojan horse and rode it into the gates and took out a can of whoop-ass and went from there, you know?
What's Anheuser-Busch doing here with Sam and the other small brewers?
Craft brewers all pretty much abide by the code of, individual and celebrate beer and celebrate the moment. There's a lot we can learn as bigger brewers about that.
Is there any fresh fruit used in this, or is it all extract?
It's all extract.
Everything that they're doing, to me, reeks of identity theft. The identity theft of the true craft brewers. There's some pretty dubious stuff going on under their control, so I'm pretty wary of their intentions.
Well, as a brewmaster, I have what you might call the greatest job in the world, because I get to make beer and to work for a company like Anheuser-Busch that is as passionate about making beer as I am.
Anheuser-Busch is doing pumpkin ale this and da-da-da that. I don't want to see a six-pack of $3.99 Anheuser-Busch pumpkin beer next to my $7.99 four-pack of pumpkin beer. I knew what it took to get us into that bottle.
Craft beers have been doing well lately in the market, and so we're brewing beers that are comparable in taste, profile, and appearance with theirs. A beer like pumpkin spice would have some spices in it, and just like when you cook on the stove at home, you add a little more of this, a little more of that, until you get it the way you like it.
To the uninitiated consumer, he goes up to that door, well, I'm not going to risk $8, but I'll risk $4. And then if that product isn't made with the care that the small breweries make it with, it might turn that consumer off from ever wandering to that craft segment of the store again.
I'm part of a team fully assigned to innovate and to come up with new products and to be out in the market and looking at what people are drinking and what they're after today in a beer. So the popularity of organic food products is on the rise. And organic beers are relatively new on the scene.
Here's a company that seems to be getting in on the organic boom. Green Valley Brewing, Fairfield, California.
Can I ask you a question? Do you know where the Green Valley Brewing Company is?
I've never heard of it.
I know where Green Valley is, but not the Green Valley Brewing Company.
Is there another brewery in this town?
Oh, yes.
What brewery is there?
Budweiser.
Budweiser.
Anheuser-Busch.
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 Budweiser. That's the only brewery I know of, and that's not like a microbrewery, which sounds like what you're speaking of. So.
Wild Hop, it's an organic beer. Have you heard of it?
No.
It's like an organic beer, and it says on it Green Valley Brewing?
No, I'm a Bud man. That sounds like a microbrewery to me, because it's not something large and conglomerate like Anheuser-Busch.
That is the Anheuser-Busch brewery right out here. Absolutely.
I believe they're out that way.
And you can get on Highway 12 and get to both Jelly Belly and Budweiser.
Maybe it's behind that thing. This is the Green Valley Brewing Company? No wonder Anheuser-Busch doesn't put its name on the label.
Let's pour ourselves a wild hop here. We provide organic beers for our beer drinkers because they told us that was important to them, and we wanted to be there with an organic beer that we thought had Anheuser-Busch attributes of craftsmanship and quality. The cool part is I get to taste them all. So my involvement is part of a bigger group that develops products and then determines which ones are good enough to have the Anheuser-Busch name on them.
If you're a small brewer, you should be concerned about Anheuser-Busch because they're going to go after every single niche, every single opportunity they can find. And if they have to hammer away at some local brewer's share of a market in Peoria, Illinois, well, that's what they're going to do.
I remember distinctly that I literally was in the shower in the morning and streaming on ABC Good Morning, whatever it is, Anheuser-Busch to launch a beer with caffeine. A category killer is a brand that is created to literally kill the competition. My initial thought was, they're just going to crush me. They wait for ideas to really gain traction, and then they come in and force you out. They want a piece of it. They want a piece of everything. We're going to meet next. I've been working on a repeatable model that I can use to expand into other markets. Raising the money is the hard part. There is not a day that I don't make introductions of myself and my company to potential investors. Their issue is they look at the giants, they look at the behemoths, say, how are you going to compete with them? I think. My kids are 10, 8, and 5, and all of them were born into the beer business. I think the example's great, that you can be anything you want to be.
We bought this house while she was still with Boston Beer. I renovated it with a whole crew, and so we got a great deal on the house. But everything's on the line. It's sink or swim. If this fails, we won't have this house anymore. I mean, the early days with Boston Beer was just she and Jim. And some of the stuff that they pulled off, no one had ever done before. She was the queen of beer. She created the best running sales force in the industry. Everybody knew her.
There's only one root beer in the fridge, guys, so share it.
I honestly thought that on her next venture, it would have been easier. It's just been so frustrating to see her come home at 2 o'clock in the morning and be up at 7 and on the phone and looking for money and having to listen to people who are bartenders who are telling her what she's doing wrong.
Did you give them your lunch money today?
Like, how can you take that shit from these guys? You took a beer from New England to California, and now here's some kid who just got out of college and is telling you what you did wrong. But she just smiles and agrees and said, yeah, and gets right back on. Nothing gets her down. It's amazing.
You knew I had to go out tonight.
Never again.
When you get up in the morning, I am going to be here.
So now it's kind of that same thing. She's constantly working on the road, coming in late, living it like she always does.
No more tears. Bye, guys.
Al, let's take a break on the soccer. Bye.
I have seen their handiwork, particularly when B2the first launched in Boston. Anheuser-Busch targeted moonshot accounts specifically, and the managers there told me that they were coming in offering them 5 or 10 free cases to have the exclusive beer with caffeine. And I know that some people took the deal partly because they got tickets to something, or you know how that stuff works. The beer is doing extremely well in about 24 accounts.
I ran out.
Wow! New moonshot.
Ooh, I like the packaging.
Thank you. The latest and greatest.
All right.
We upped the caffeine to 69.
Yeah, I like it.
And changed the formula just a little bit. Cheers. What is your name?
My name is
George.
How do you do, George?
Good.
Rhonda Kelman.
Where are you from?
We're from Boston.
I have
Oh, I like that one. Look! Oh, that looks awesome. Wow.
Back to trafficking 24 hours on the border in just a minute, but first, these business headlines. Rolling Rock, well, this bud's for you. Anheuser-Busch is buying the brand, popular in the Northeast, from a Belgium firm for $82 million. Anheuser-Busch already has...
After its acquisition of Rolling Rock, Anheuser-Busch shut down the original brewery in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, and moved its production to the Budweiser Brewery in Newark, New Jersey.
I'm sure Latrobe Brewery isn't the only one that this happened to. I mean, we're just experienced what a lot of other companies have been going through for years now.
They may have bought Latrobe's name, but it's not brewed from the glass line tanks of Latrobe anymore.
There's probably a lot more to the deal than we know about. We don't know how these big corporations do business. But, you know, a lot of it just doesn't make sense to normal people, you know.
Anheuser-Busch bought the Rolling Rock brand. They didn't want the brewery itself. What they wanted was that brand because they're going after the nostalgia market. And now they're going to start buying microbrewers who've been successful at establishing themselves as a brand.
We're in the midst of this big expansion here. We already bit the bullet and have a bigger bottling line. So our bottleneck, no pun intended, is now on the front side, our brew house, and on the back side, tanks. We're jumping from a 50-barrel brew house to a 100-barrel brew house. It's going to be a pretty expensive project. Of the $9 million that this expansion will cost us, about $6 million is going into buying and rehabbing all the real estate, and about $3 million is going into all that brewing equipment.
They've come back and they found a way with our limited electrical here to reduce that bottleneck, power this up, and so we can move in here by January. First week of January.
I feel an obligation to the people I work with. Are you guys happy with the way this space? And the customers ultimately who are asking us to make more and more beer.
We have in the budget $250,000 for concrete work, pavers and brick and walls and
That's all well and good. Do I still get the bocce course?
Yes.
Right. And that's a wrap.
What's
beer in mine? We're going to taste a bunch of the ageable beers and just see how well they're aging and sort of do a comparison on different vintages. Whoa! Hey! So Pangea recipe differences. This is a beer with one ingredient from every continent.
Extra. Musty.
That'd be the raisins talking to you. There's like woodiness to it also, the old.
Kind of leathery, kind of, you know.
I love it when you talk about leather.
Yeah.
All right, so what are we on next? We take beer very, very seriously at Dogfish Head, but we don't take ourselves very seriously. We're making beer. It's not, nuclear armaments. You want what?
Grapes.
Grapes for breakfast?
She said I want a pancake with Sheila.
I'm not good at that. Mommy's good at that. We'll check when she gets down. Do you want to wait?
Those are over here. I bet so.
I'm not sure I can do that. Mariah, I don't know how to make a pancake. You want to make a pancake? We're getting ready to do this expansion at the brewery. I know, regardless of what the bank deal looks like, they're still going to ask us to personally sign for it and potentially put our real estate, which is the restaurant that we own personally, up against that. So in terms of dollars, we're going into probably more risk than we ever had. The beer's almost done bubbling, huh? See, Sam? We're going to bottle that on Monday. Doug's coming over. There were a lot of anxious months and years where we owed people money and had to, not pay ourselves.
But I think the risks at that point were different because we didn't have any kids, we didn't own a house, we didn't have anything to lose except maybe a car.
We're going party.
Okay, possibly. But it's still daunting. And there are nights where I wake up at 4 a.m. and I don't go back to sleep because I'm just thinking about, my God, if we don't hit our budget and if something happens or if one of the great people that helps our company be so strong decides to leave and we have to replace them. Will we come in tomorrow and there's a disaster and everything's changed? I'm in charge of the yard. Those things can sometimes, if not keep you up, they can wake you up.
While Sam and Rhonda were going further into debt in order to grow their companies, Anheuser-Busch just bought the rights to Grolsch, Tiger, and Kirin beers.
Daily, I will get a request from a consumer that wants to buy a case or 2 or 3, and I can't get it to them. We can't ship beer because I have to go through the 3-tier system.
Since the 1930s, it's been illegal for brewers to sell beer directly to consumers. And nowadays, it's even illegal to sell it online. Now, do you know how beer gets to the store?
No, how does beer get to the store?
By an airplane and then in a truck and whatever.
They put it on a truck? Beers come on a Budweiser truck to the stores.
I've never really thought about it. I'm sure like barrels and trucks.
I was just as clueless when I started in the beer business. Distribution was a total mystery to me.
The men and women who distribute malt beverages have a two-way responsibility, and that's because, to the public, they are the brewing industry.
These middlemen, called wholesalers or distributors, are part of a 3-tier system established after Prohibition to separate brewers from retailers. These 3 tiers were set up to work a bit like the U.S. government, each tier being separate but equal, with none having control over the other. Or at least that's how they planned it. The 3-tier system is so complicated that while I ran Mike's Hard Lemonade, I spoke to our lawyer every single day.
Of interesting beer bottles and such.
Oh, that's very cool.
After Prohibition, the country came to a decision. Letting the federal government legislate for the entire country in terms of temperance and morality of alcohol was a really dumb idea. And so there was a deliberate attempt to give more power to the states. So if you're a small brewer, there's a heck of a lot of law to sort through in this industry.
And I don't know if they're going to hold up.
Right,
let's see if we can get them to hold up.
You've got a patchwork quilt. There's very little uniformity.
Now we got through Wyoming.
You've got a whole secondary set of regulations.
Basic mandatory labeling information for malt beverages, Volume 3. That's 37,000 beer laws?
My guess is that it's more than 37,000 beer laws.
The beer laws are teetering.
The beer laws are teetering? Here, we should just...
So does the 3-tier system still work 75 years later? Ah!
Whoa!
Is it still relevant today?
One of our biggest issues is making sure that we can get our beers onto the shelves. It's our job to make sure those beers sell, but if you can't even get it to the shelves, that's a difficult proposition.
So how does it all work? And who are all these middlemen anyway?
Days of inventory are we on Corona? Are we catching up or still being...
That's Simon Bergson, the guy on the right.
About 50. Total warehouse right now is about...
Simon was my largest distributor at Mike's and is the 4th largest beer distributor in the country with over $600 million in sales. How does this get into a bar or a store?
That's what we do for a living. We're distributors, and it's our goal to get it either on the shelf or served at a bar, and to make sure it stays fresh. Sal.
Yes.
We have the heat on.
Yes.
Why's the door open?
That door's broke. We're waiting for a repairman to come and fix the motor.
We have over 1 million square feet of warehousing, and we're constantly refilling the shelf for our trucks when we load every night.
Good morning. How's everything? Tight. Good.
We sell about 11 million cases of Corona and just about 11 million cases of Coors. They are just about neck and neck in our company. Versus a product like Sam Adams, which in this market will sell about 600,000 cases.
90% of the beer that a distributor distributes is from one of the large companies. Of course they have to pay attention to the large companies, sometimes to the detriment to the other 10%.
When the 3-tier system was established, power was given to the states, who then split themselves into territories. So today, in most states, there are only 2 or 3 big distributors per territory, which means that if you're a small brewer, you have to get on one of these trucks if you want to get your beer to market.
In a lot of cases, our wholesalers are the same wholesalers for Miller. What's happened increasingly over time is that the wholesalers that don't sell Budweiser in many cases sell virtually all the other brands.
For small brewers, if there are 2 distributors, one of whom won't carry anything but their brewery's products, and one of whom has a very crowded house, you may not be able to get into the marketplace.
The Anheuser-Busch network, they are a difficult competitor because they have very deep pockets and they can make almost anything happen.
Today, 70% of Anheuser-Busch distributors carry only their products, effectively shutting out small players.
I don't think anybody has the power over their wholesaler network that Anheuser-Busch has. I mean, it's the heart of your business. If the wholesaler's not with you, you can stand there and bang a ball-peen hammer off your thumb all you want, and you're not going to get any results.
When that system begins to break down and that middle tier is not as independent as it should be, that's when craft brewers have challenges in getting their beer to customers.
The three-tier system creates a level playing field for all brewers, retailers, and consumers.
This system has served us well for 70 years. Springing from the failure of Prohibition, what has emerged is a viable system of safeguards, state and local control, orderly markets, and tremendous consumer choice.
Clearly it works for the big brewers and beer distributors, but is it good for consumers?
I often look at it in terms of it's a challenge for the beer drinker. Access to the beers that they like.
So here we are, the countdown till brew day. I think we got about 2 weeks. That's the plan. You can see there's the last few things have to come together. So finally we got our big boy brew house, like big boy underpants. We're finally strapping on our big boy brew house. Right now, myself and I know all the brewers are just really excited to grow into a true regional brewery, you know, like before Prohibition when there were, you know, dozens and dozens of breweries that were over 100,000 barrels, and that era, you know, disappeared, you know, because of the great marketing skills of the Millers and the Buds and the Coors of the world. You know, I'm proud of this 100-barrel brew house, but I'm proud to say my buddies at Stone have a brewery this big. My buddies at New Belgium have one 2 or 3 times.
The challenge as you grow is how can you keep your identity special, and how do you differentiate yourselves from a bigger brewery once you're brewing on the scale we're about to brew on. The great thing is I see all these people stepping up. There's 100 people at this company who, you know, their own jobs are at risk if we don't make this happen. They're as ambitious as I am to see this expansion work.
I would hate to see a day when the people that were working here every day no longer had 51% of this company, no longer could decide to do what we're doing. Because if that day came, a beer like this at $150 a case, that'd be the first thing that would go. I'm very worried that we'll outgrow the loans that we just made. If we kept growing at 40, 50, 60% a year the way we have been, there's no doubt in my mind that we would need more money to expand before I pay off this $9 million worth of debt that I have. So we're getting all these calls from venture capitalists and suits from New York who are like, oh wow, you guys are kicking ass, we want to take you public, we want to invest in your company, but I don't want to grow at the rate that necessitates us losing control of the company. And that's what I worry about, is that some outside force would be able to, you know, deter us from our labor of love.
How about a taxi? Hey, taxi! I will have to get back to you.
The money raising has probably been the most frustrating part. It's a little bit of a catch-22. The people with the money are waiting to see something happen, but I can't make it happen without having the money.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
In the last 10 days, I think I've had 7 different meetings for raising money. It's too small for most and too big of an idea for the rest. I have the brand. I just need to find the people that have a stomach for this kind of investment.
Hi there.
Hi there.
How are you?
Nice to meet you.
Brought the good stuff.
Rhonda Kelman.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to be here. Thank you. When I came up with this idea, I was, really thinking about what consumers were doing today. And when I looked at Starbucks, Red Bull, and the commonality there, of course, is caffeine, and I thought, well, there's an unmet need in beer, and that's, what this company is set up to do. So I'm looking for $800,000, which would get the company to sustain profitability.
But is that how much money you need to be done with that? Or?
Well, no, but that's really just to get me to the next level.
Mhm.
And then, I don't...
Have you talked to any other professional investors other than...
I'm doing it in stages, because if I go to an angel that might write a check for $50,000 and they see that I need $6 million, it's too big of a jump.
At the stage of development you're at right now, it's probably going to be a lot harder to get a true institutional investor to
I think it'd be great to make an introduction to a couple of people that do sort of the earlier stage, and then just see where that goes. And then, I think we come in more at the venture stage, so a little bit later, but it's not that far off necessarily.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Every day that goes by, I have to make a new decision of which part of my life am I going to mortgage or sell. And I'm down to my kids, but I think I'm going to hold off. I'm hopeful that there will be a strategic partner in the future. It's that situation. I'm just on the road by myself. It's lonely.
When I got this invitation to the beer industry's annual legislative conference, I was thrilled at the opportunity to see democracy in action. I mean, what do beer and politics have to do with each other?
Beer certainly makes politics a lot easier.
Do you have any idea why the beer industry needs a lobby?
No, I don't. Seems like there's a lobby for everything.
Why do beer people need a lobby?
Well, for several reasons, we need a lobby. We go talk to members about the issues we have today that look at the integrity of our three-tier system. This system mandates that you can be a brewer, a wholesaler, or a retailer. We want Congress to remember the system works well. We get about 1,000 people in Washington every year, which is, amongst all legislative conferences, certainly one of the bigger ones.
I even tried to get my own meeting with a congressman. Steve, hi, this is Annette Barron calling, and we called you yesterday about trying to get in to see Congressman Frank today. Anytime the beer folks got together, there were parties.
Hey, in D.C., you've got to be political, right?
That's right. Are you going to march? March on Washington?
Okay. You want to take a picture of me and Chuck Schumer?
1,000 beer distributors going down on Capitol Hill. They have, I think, 452 visits planned for the Senate and the House.
What are the big issues that people are going to talk about?
Oh, we're going to talk about things that we can do to shore up the three-tier system.
So what are we looking forward to this week?
Well, we've got, obviously the three-tier issues are very big.
Do you think that people are worried about the three-tier system, the people here?
Oh, absolutely. Everybody is very concerned.
It was lobby day in Washington, D.C. The sun was shining, the birds were chirping, the show was about to begin. As I got my own button and badge, I could hear the House Majority Leaders address to the crowd. John Boehner was speaking to some of the very same people who helped put him in office. Especially this guy, David Rear, their chief lobbyist, who heads the National Beer Wholesalers Association.
One of the things I think I'm most proud about is that the National Beer Wholesalers now is ranked as one of the most influential groups in Washington, D.C. The NBWA has become the political arm of the beer industry in America, because they're located in every community. The beer wholesalers are very politically involved with their legislators, and they serve really as the eyes and ears of the beer industry in every city and town all across America.
Having a beer distributor in every congressional district? How convenient when you want to talk to Congress.
Lobbying is like the fourth branch of government.
It's about power, it's about money, and if you follow the money, the brewing industry is a very powerful industry.
In the 2006 election cycle, Political Action Committee contributions for the beer industry made it one of the biggest givers in Washington, bigger than guns and tobacco combined.
They know how to manipulate Congress to get what they want.
We work together as a very cohesive team in promoting what we consider to be a pro-beer agenda for the country.
And we're going to talk about the three-tiered system for distribution, that we'd like to keep that in place. It's good for America.
The brewing industry historically has been very smart about how to get access in Washington.
We pay a lot of taxes. It's about $30 billion nationally. In Oklahoma, excise tax is 82 cents a case, which is about $28 to $30 million a year is what we pay in the state of Oklahoma. So it's a pretty good chunk of change.
The focus is to maintain the current status quo of the three tiers in the beer industry, which is a gambit to maintain the dominance of the large breweries. The three-tier system was actually created specifically to break up monopolies. Instead, it's now allowing them to continue.
How does the NBWA decide who gets money? What do politicians have to do in return? Hey, why didn't he get any money?
I noticed when I was looking at the NBWA materials that you do not accept NBWA PAC money. Can you tell me why?
I don't think they'll offer.
You don't think they've offered?
What's the best way to make it to the top of all political action committees in America? Find yourself an enemy.
There are some who look for any opportunity to magnify every mistake and use it to seek prohibition of the malt beverages, which add to the enjoyment of gracious living.
We need to ensure that those kind of neo-prohibitionist influences in America do not attain any of their objectives in restricting the availability of beer for the American consumer.
Neo-prohibitionists? Who are they? I sought out David Rear's arch enemy, George Hacker. Are you a neo-prohibitionist?
The short answer is flatly no. I consume alcohol myself. Dave Rear uses the label neo-prohibitionist as a way of rallying his troops, as a way of generating income for his association, as a way of exaggerating the threat.
So it's really a kind of a combination of zealots, of kind of obsessed consumerites, all joined together.
It's more a tactic than a real political argument.
I had to find out if anyone else had heard of this shadowy menace of neo-prohibition.
Excuse me, can I ask you guys a question? I'm just wondering, are you a neo-prohibitionist? I'm sorry? Are you a neo-prohibitionist, ma'am? No? Do you know what a neo-prohibitionist is? I'm looking to find a neo-prohibitionist. Do you know of any?
I gave up my search for neo-prohibitionists to attend the grand finale, the beer industry's reception for America's congressmen and senators.
Congressman Kurt Weldon's office, 7th District of Pennsylvania. Wexler, Congressman Wexler, thank you.
The ugly political side is that big breweries influence politics with lots of money. If Americans are fed up with special interests, then their beer company shouldn't be a special interest in Washington, promoting party politics that are not necessarily good for America.
So it turns out that in our democracy, the people we elect decide what beers we can and can't drink based on outdated laws and the almighty dollar.
Well, I'm not here to lobby, but I'm here to find a strategic partner, and they're all here. This is the place to do it. Moonshot's probably in 150 accounts. I do have a lot of interest from distributors all over the country I'm happy about that sort of progress, but it's not one of those things that just takes off overnight. It needs support, but I can only be in so many places. The brand is here. I'm really so close. Jim actually was trying to track me down to have coffee, a beer, lunch, anything, so we did get together. I was hoping that I could get an investment from Boston Beer Company and/or Jim. His feeling is that I'm a competitor and it wouldn't be ethical. I'm having a hard time getting my head around that, but if that's how he wants to communicate that's the reason he gave me. I thought that Coors could be a good fit, and particularly I like their management personally. If you're going to do something, you might as well like the people that you're doing it with. Fritz went on to say that all of their focus, effort, and dollars need to go behind building their company brand. They passed. I have, in fact, approached Miller Brewing Company, but I haven't been met with any interest at all, so. I think what keeps me up at night is not being able to keep it going. Failing. We have $23,000 in the bank right now. It's oh shit mode once again. I tracked Anheuser-Busch down. They didn't come after me, and that's what you do when you're in a position like mine, is you just have to go after it. You know, I'll expect somebody will get back to me sooner or later, whether it's, you know, we have no interest, good luck to you, or we are interested, tell me more. And I'm hoping that the latter will happen. Going to Anheuser-Busch, is it like sleeping with the enemy?
Hi, how are you? I'm just checking to see if August Busch IV has checked in. The one big guy who eluded me since I started making the film was August Busch IV. I haven't met August Busch IV. Could you introduce me to him? August Busch IV? August Busch IV.
We don't really run in the same circles.
Oh, he's a wonderful guy.
August, I know, is extremely busy, and he's got a lot on his plate.
He's here already.
Oh, he's checked in? Well, he obviously wasn't too busy to come lobby in Washington.
August, hi. My name is Annette Barron. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm making a film about the beer industry, and I'd love to get you in it.
I thought I'd be better off trying to charm him.
Wow. Do you have a card or something?
I would take that as a no. After all, August is a very busy man. He keeps adding new brands to the Anheuser-Busch family. In fact, in the last 10 years, the company went from 26 to 80. I wouldn't let up. I had to understand what was behind this insatiable desire to grow at all cost. Despite a letter-writing campaign, August still wouldn't meet with me. But he did invite me to St. Louis to visit his kingdom. As I got deeper into the center of the Anheuser-Busch empire, it finally hit me. Anheuser-Busch had gotten this big because it had politicians and laws on its side. And by using its marketing machine, it was able to push consumers to buy its products rather than respond to market demand. Anheuser-Busch and other corporate behemoths like Walmart and Microsoft, with their voracious appetite for growth, swallow anything and everything in their path.
Welcome to 1984, the age of automation and unemployment, the rise of the machine and the fall of man, the end of the human era.
When you're a monopoly like Anheuser-Busch, you just can't let anything slide. Everyone's a threat, no matter how small.
They have weapons and we have weapons, and ours might seem like slingshots and theirs seem like giant missiles, but ours is ground warfare, one consumer at a time. Recently it's gotten a little more personal. This thing here is basically Anheuser-Busch Incorporated against Dogfish Head. We've been brewing chicory stout and pumpkin ale for pretty much almost a decade, but suddenly we've been slapped with this legal action of Anheuser-Busch wanting to stop us from using those names. It'd be one thing if we were calling it just Dogfish Head Stout or Dogfish Head Pumpkin Ale, spelt out pumpkin, but they're actually fighting to stop us from using the word chicory and using the word pumpkin on our labeling. And I guess their claim is that they're too generic of terms. Makes you wonder about a beer like Natural Light not being a generic term, but I guess they look at that a little differently. It's really just a further example of just how oppressive and obnoxious they are, because they've got the ability, and I'm sure they plan to lawyer the bejesus out of us.
But not all corporations operate the same way. After a long day at the Coors corporate headquarters, employees get to work out at the company wellness center. And of course, have a beer. And at Miller, they can just meet up at the employee pub, where even the CEO shows up for a beer after work. I didn't see any of that team spirit over in St. Louis. But in the end, they're all just selling beer, right? But is it just about beer? Does it really matter who's behind what we drink, what we eat, what we watch? What has the American dream become? Is it still about the freedom to pursue your passion, or has it become only about success and power? When is big, big enough?
I did not go to Anheuser-Busch to sell out. But getting the meeting was validation that the concept, the company, and the brands have potential. I am in St. Louis right now, believe it or not. I did, yeah, you wouldn't believe it. I'm on the phone with Matt, and my phone beeps in, it's Anheuser-Busch. But they passed for now. Told me to go pursue, other things. Exactly, and it was one of those things, we really wish you the best of luck and keep in touch, but they just didn't want to hold me up any longer, and that's cool. At least I got an answer, and if I didn't... I was disappointed, but if you believe in something, you keep going. Okay, bye. Okay. I'll be honest with you, there's days that I've come home and say, I don't know, kids, what do you think? And they're like, keep going, Mom. And my 10-year-old daughter, Callie, said, we have to keep going because my mom's not a quitter. And I thought, yeah, she's right. I have 16 people who have invested their money in this and their faith and their belief in me and the opportunity. That keeps me going every day. I'm not going to let them down. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to keep the company growing. I'm building something that no one's done before. I love to be at the forefront of things. And the opportunity to build things is what I dream about with my eyes open.
Anytime a company gets bigger, I think you fear the perception that you've become too big for your britches, that you've changed. We're growing, and we are a corporation, and the word corporation, the root word is corpus, which is body. I'm just a part of this bigger body now. We can fit our entire first brewery in this tank, our entire second brewery in this tank, our first bottling line in this tank, and probably the delivery truck that we used to use as well. It's pretty amazing. This machine, to paraphrase Woody Guthrie, this machine kills fascist beer styles. And there's hundreds just like it in America that are, different size and different scale, but they all really have the same function, which is putting a hurting on the bland domestic lagers that dominate American beer culture. My dream back when I was opening the brewery, I've exceeded that dream. Oops, should I do this and just hang up?
Just
I
answer
just
it.
want to see who it is. Dogfish. Hi. Sam? We have our 800 number on like all our 4-packs and 6-packs, and you come in on Monday mornings, there's always like 7 or 8 messages, people like, dude, I'm drinking your beer. I love it. And you're loving it, and you just what? All right, and you saw the 800 number and decided to call it? Oh, what to do is email me. I'm sam@dogfish.com. Because, oh no, if you care about calories, oh, that's the spirit. Forget calories. Life's too short to drink light beer. Right? Amen, sister. People are choosing to support small companies that are on a human scale. Big companies, they can talk at the consumer, but they can't talk with the consumer. The successful small breweries have soul. These people are all equally soulful, and I'm just happy to be a part of that.
What's big will be getting bigger. Miller and Coors are joining forces, merging 50-50. Miller says the goal is to take on brewery giant Anheuser-Busch.
Even these two giants had to do something drastic to fight Anheuser-Busch. And then the unthinkable happened.
Looks like there's a new king of beers. Anheuser-Busch, which makes Budweiser and Bud Light, has agreed to a takeover bid from InBev.
Anheuser-Busch initially resisted the buyout, but finally said bottoms up when InBev sweetened the offer to $52 billion.
If shareholders and regulators okay the deal, it would create the world's largest brewer with the name Anheuser-Busch InBev.
Progress can't stand still in a business any more than in a nation. In planning boldly for the future, we're merely in step with the spirit of enterprise, the spirit that made our country great.
So what's next for America?
They say I'm too young to talk about always, but I'll always remember today.
History is showing us that big business mixed with politics is a dangerous brew.
But this is forever.
How can independent brewers like Sam and Rhonda compete on a level playing field?
That doesn't mean I can't play. It feels like I've waited forever to get here, but this is forever.
When do we stop paying lip service to free enterprise and actually practice it? When it's time for a beer, will you be able to choose the one that you want?
Everybody's got something that they could throw away. Sometimes everybody's got way too much to say. And I don't know what happens when the night becomes the day. But I know every time I'm lost, I always find my way. 'Cause it's about survival. You can't push me down, 'cause I'll just stand up. You can't fool me twice with all your stuff. I'll just give it back to where it